What is going on, guys? It's Triple G here, back with another Borderlands 3 video, and today we're going to be going through yesterday's recently buffed weapons and working out using a report card system which ones are worth using. Guys, if you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing to the channel or join us over on Twitch. We stream 5 times a week. Otherwise, let's get straight into that video. So for the test itself, we're going to be using Shoulder of Fortunes build. This build is on my YouTube at the moment. It's my most popular Zane build. All we're going to be doing is rotating the weapon out to keep the test as simple as possible. We're obviously going to be testing on Zane as well, which means, you know, we're going to get extra damage here, but Moze also has extra damage as well when you consider things. So it's just about as even as we can get. So first up on the list is the DNA, which drops from General Tron. Now this was a bit of a meme gun, Mayhem 6 exclusive. No one really used it. Now the anointment I have on it here is next to Max Cryo with a kinetic variant to start with. Now this wouldn't necessarily be ideal for what we were doing today, but as you're about to see, this thing actually is really good. Now it fires a little bit similar to the Cutsman in terms of it has a split projectile. However, this thing fires a lot faster than the Cutsman and can do a ton more damage over a consistent amount of time because of its increased fire rate. Pair this with Zane, who can automatically always get his next 2 mags going with his Mantis cannon, and you can see here this is true takedown. You will absolutely destroy enemies. So this is a really good weapon for Zane when you don't want to be using other SMGs like the Plasma Core. It's not in the same bracket as the Plasma Core in terms of the damage output, but it is in a similar bracket to the Flipper, which is seen as one of the top SMGs in the game. The real advantage of having this particular SMG get its way into the top brackets is because that this weapon does not require you to have DLC. So you're able to get this weapon by just farming General Tron. You don't need to the DLC, which means that it's not locked behind DLC and not locked behind power creep. So overall, this weapon I think gets an A in terms of our scorecard performance because of its increased fire rate, the fact that you don't need DLC to actually have access to this weapon, and its ease of use and easy to farm. So up next then we have the Ripper. Now the Ripper recently got a buff as well. Now this buff is a really interesting one because you were able to do everything that I'm about to show you with the Ripper, but it didn't really pack a punch. Now the additional damage that the Ripper has got, which has meant on certain scenarios and on certain playstyles, you can make this work. So if you didn't know, the Ripper's ability is that when you melee an enemy, that particular enemy will start to bleed and take increased damage from you. You can pair this with a Stinger Shield, which means that everybody around you will start to bleed, meaning you will take, or they would take, increased damage. Now, when we're on Zane, we can spam our Novas quite a lot of the time, which means that you can already see here that the second that anybody starts to bleed, we do a nice ton of damage. Now, as you can see, we don't have the right element here, but we're still able to do really nice damage from the Ripper. And because the Kraken was actually far away through the door, we weren't able to do the damage to them straight away. But as soon as they get into our melee Nova, or we can actually melee them range, you can do really good damage to them. So actually this is one of the surprises that I didn't see coming with the Ripper. Now Ripper playstyles have been there before, it's just been a bit meh. You could use it maybe on a Mayhem playthrough, but you couldn't really use it anywhere else. But once you get that melee damage going, you can see that it doesn't matter what type of enemy it is, as long as they start to bleed, you can do a decent amount of damage to them. The Ripper can also come in a bunch of elemental flavors as well, so it can really do a really nice bit of damage. And the good thing about this little synergy of playstyle is that you can actually use Groundbreaker as well to do a decent amount of damage. So up next we have the SF Force, which is a DLC exclusive weapon from DLC 2. This one we have here is URAD. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a Deathless here so you can see what this SF Force can do. And again, absolutely same build, but the SF Force is pretty nice actually. We are getting quite a lot of explosive damage from the fact that we are using URAD, and it does a nice ton of damage with URAD. But as you can see here, it's pretty viable. Now I have seen some reports that the weapon itself is getting the new scaling off the primary function, but you can see here it has additional projectiles, and those additional projectiles aren't apparently getting the mayhem scaling that it needs to give this damage its full capability. So with that in mind, the SF Force comes in at a C-. However, it is viable and it is fun. It kind of fires very similar to the ion cannon, and those people that used the ion cannon previously would know that that could be, you know, pretty fun in certain scenarios. The last thing on the list is the Malex Bane. Now, a lot of people when they saw this on the list thought, has this gone from meme to mean? And I'm going to say it hasn't. The Malex Bane is still as bad as it was previously. It still doesn't pack a punch at all. We tried killing Grave Ward with it. We tried doing a ton of things with it. I know that I'm using a fire element here against armor bars, which won't do it any good. But I can assure you, even if you were standing up against trash mobs in Athenas, you'd probably kill them in 1 or 2 shots, but you wouldn't be doing a ton of damage. So unfortunately, the Malex Bane still goes in at an big fat F. So guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel or join us over on Twitch. We stream 5 times a week. Leave a comment in the section below if you have enjoyed this slightly new style of video, and otherwise I'll catch you on the flip.